Hello, wonderful people.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Hi.
I've brought us here to have the Vanguard do what they do best
Oh yeah.
and fill us all in on what's happening with TYT because I tuned into your live earlier this week when y'all were covering Cenk's debate with Kyle Kalinske, which I think I had seen on somebody else's channel, maybe like Political Punk or something. I think that's his account name. I saw him covering it too, and that was special. And I saw like then it was hilarious on your live seeing him and Anna like cover it because as Cenk is like swearing up and down, like doing his usual tirade about like how he hates the left because the rest of the left think that they the real left when he's the real left, and then in the middle of it, Anna's like, "Well, you're not a leftist,"
That
and
was brilliant.
right. Like she officially doesn't even want to like be associated, and so she's trying to pull him away from that association too. It is funny. So that's why I brought y'all here. Tell us.
Yeah, what's up,
I don't have
everyone?
anything to do with this, by the way. Cenk, please, if you're watching, Anna, I'm sorry. Have me back. I miss you. I miss us. And I don't know who these people are.
Yup.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Thanks so much, Olay, for inviting us on. It's great to see you again, Francesca. But yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about the Kyle Kalinske, Cenk, and Anna debate, or sorry, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball versus Cenk debate, I thought that it was like one of the most humiliating moments, one of the most, horrendous performances, at least from Cenk so far that we've seen. I think he completely fell apart before the first question was really even asked. In his intro to the debate, he immediately came out with the worst, most kind of putrid, petty energy. And it never got better throughout the whole like hour and a half long conversation. In fact, it only got worse. The debate went viral. The entire comment section agreed that he lost the debate. It was just a terrible L all around. So then for him to come out here and double, triple down on air, keep smearing Crystal and Kyle, keep gaslighting the audience. It's just a terrible look. I don't know what else, how else to say it.
It was also
What's the
very
reason?
it was very familiar as I watched that debate because it sounded like Cenk debating me, which actually immediately made me feel better. Because my debate with Cenk was also him losing his mind and screaming and being like really condescending and just like not, there was no attempt to meet me where I was at all, or just listen, or just be calm. And so it was nice because I was like, oh, thank God it's not just me. You know what I mean? Thank God he's not just treating me that way, having seen me as some sort of turncoat or whatever it is. He did, however, did you guys notice there was there was progress? Like clearly he was workshopping with his he doesn't go to therapy. Clearly that much is true, but probably people at TYT who told him that he needs to stop yelling and saying like when he's on with ostensible friends, like insulting them. So he was like, "It's so stupid." I'm not gonna say it's stupid.
I'm not going to say it.
I disagree. Like that to me was the best part. Where it's like, "Oh, look at this progress. You still sound ridiculous."
Yeah, it's so obviously hypocritical too, right? And there's such a tale of two Cenks. Let's put it this way, right? If you
The
go and
tale
you
of
see
two Cenks is
Cenk
hilarious.
on with Charlie Kirk, when you go and see Cenk on with Dr. Phil, when you go and watch Cenk on with PBD, he's desperate to kiss their ass and give them a reach around, right? That's all he does the whole time. He tries to find something he can say to them where they like him. He's like a little kid that hasn't seen their dad in 8 months, and no matter what they do, they just want to make sure that they have one moment where their dad pats him on the head. That's how he behaves, like a little boy, and he doesn't have a firm identity, so he's always looking around. He wants to be the big dog. He wants to be the man on top, but he also doesn't want to be the home of progressives anymore. So what he's trying to do is pivot his message away from progressivism while still demanding that he's the top dog. Like, I'm the best progressive, even though I'm not a progressive. So let me tell you why every single other progressive is wrong, because they're not behaving like me, somebody who hates the left and declares that I'm not a leftist, right? Because at the end of the day, Cenk is a businessman, right? And he wants to be surrounded by other businessmen. And he felt like at one point he got too isolated from the other businessmen in the community because the left got crazy. But in reality, the left just continued to fight for the things that were no longer profitable for him to fight for anymore.
I just don't understand what they're doing anymore at this point because I wasn't surprised by anything. Obviously, it's not what they think that's surprising or that's confusing. It's what they're doing strategy wise that's confusing to me because
Well, they don't have a strategy in my view.
what is it for? Like they've done, and I'm not even exaggerating, every time, I feels like every single time I see them, they are on the exact same tirade. Like it's the same, the life, blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I'm not even like mad at whatever their sentiment or that they feel that way or they express it a couple of times. But consistently, constantly, when it's never received well and your numbers are tanking and you've been doing this, like, it's not been a little while now, this like right wing tour, this like attempt to pick up a right wing audience, and it's not working. So I don't get it. And this every time you hear Cenk, every time I hear him, his whole gripe is like, you should not be ostracizing the right. You should not be insulting them. You should not describe them with any true words that would hurt their feelings. Do not call them anything bad. Why would you call them racist? Why would you call them fascist? Why would you call them homophobic? Why would you call them transphobic? Why would you call them all these things when like you need them? But all he does all day is call the left a big bunch of stupid fucking radical lying criminal idiots. Every time I hear him, like in the same breath, he's like, you stupid motherfuckers. You watch all your fucking channels are lying to.
But this is the thing, like Olay, like this, what we're doing right here, which are 3 channels that support one another, they could never, and that is the strategy, and it is a strategy of people who've been locked in their own studio for way too long. Meanwhile, they posit that we're the ones who don't break out of the echo chamber. No, man, so many leftist shows, you know what we do? We watch right-wing clips. We listen to them. We hear their fucking racist-ass fascist arguments. We see them fold as soon as Donald Trump decides that he wants to strike Iran on all the ostensible anti-war positions, which we know are actually not anti-war. They're actually pro-war when it comes to a war on American soil. When it comes to a war on immigrants, super pro that. A war on trans people, super pro that. Whatever, like they want to bring the war home. And so that's the thing. They are so, again, they're so lost in their own hot box of BS that the strategy really is the same as like any crank online, which is only I am the truth, the way, the light. Only listen to me. And in their case, it's we. And that we doesn't even extend to like John Idarola or J.R. Jackson, and certainly not Dr. Rashad Ritchie. It's just like, no, me and Anna. It doesn't even extend to anyone else who works at TYT. And that's what's so, I mean, as someone who used to be there, that's what was so offensive, is being lumped into this we and not even being given an opportunity to openly debate and discuss. They claim they're so open for discussion. They run away from debates. They will never debate us. I mean, Olay, we've said this before, but you got one of that last licks of debates that they were willing to have in, and it was beautiful. And now you have, however many years later, Anna saying, I covered the BLM movement wrong. I was wrong. It was the protesters who were violent. I mean, that's what she's basically intimating.
I think their problem is they're just unnecessarily contentious for no reason. Because like, listen, if you don't like a certain set of viewpoints, like it's your right to do whatever the fuck you want with your platform. You could just don't acknowledge those people. There are a whole bunch of people on the internet I don't fucking agree with. I don't like their thought process, and I don't like give space to it. And the viewpoints of the people that I respect that are similarly situated to me, even if I don't share them, we can just talk about them. Like they don't have to be a debate. I think that inherently is a problem with like TYT's model. Like even when I went on there, that was a debate. Like it was framed as a debate in the title debate. Ain't nobody told me it was a debate. I thought I'm coming to talk to you, but you asked me to explain abolition to you. I thought I was coming to explain to people who told me they don't know what it is. Why would we be debating if you told me you don't know what it is? So no, I never.
Exactly right, because they don't listen. They don't listen, and it's purely anecdotal. And even today, like again, it's the whole model of like, no, whatever you feel, that's the truth. And so one time I saw an unhoused person, and they were on drugs, and therefore
they were on drugs.
You know what I mean? Like that's the whole worldview, and it's like elevate. Oh, you don't like birthing person? Elevate that, and so that's the hysteria that we're still seeing. And I really think that the anti-war stuff, guys, this is the problem, and the problem that I think Crystal and Kyle tried to explain to them over and over again, which is you have so many natural allies. Anyone left of your centrist Chuck Schumer, which honestly at this point is the majority of Democratic voters, is all of the Democratic voters. And you poo-poo them, you don't even want to talk to them. And yeah, man, okay, do I like crooked media and all the podcast, those guys. No, man. But like even someone like like Ezra Klein, which I honestly think like Anna would probably agree with a lot of Ezra Klein's viewpoints.
Yeah, his
but even
NIMBY
someone
bullshit.
like that, yeah, exactly, total NIMBY bullshit. But like instead they turn their nose at, and it really isn't leftists, it's just any liberals who are natural allies, and instead want to coddle the like literally. Let's count them. It's Tucker Carlson, it's Candace Owens, and it's Marjorie Greene, who are still on the anti-war train. Marjorie Greene hasn't done fuck all when it comes to the War Resolutions Power Act or whatever. She was like, I'm not going to sign that.
That's all white supremacist nut.
Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are white supremacists. Kanye West is right now leading a choir on the streets of Los Angeles singing Heil Hitler. Okay? That's what's happening. And like, and Tucker Carlson, it's like, so again, why? Who are you talking to? And I think the Crystal and Kyle debate was also interesting. Guys, I'll stop talking in a second, because Cenk started to parse something I think we've tried to ask him to parse, which is MAGA isn't all like voters, like the broad base of voters. The broad base of voters, whether they voted for Trump or for Kamala Harris or didn't vote at all, are anti-war. The broad base of Americans are anti-war. That, I think, is a bigger question. The question is, and the polling bears it out, are there more people who are against war on the left or on the right? On the fucking left by a mile. So what are we doing? And Kyle has said to me privately, he was like, you know what? It sucks because TYT in this moment could have been Midas Touch. Midas Touch is number one on all of these platforms, on podcasts, on YouTube. They're getting these big interviews. They're even, again, they're moving
Cenk
past.
could have been Pierce Morgan. He could have been anybody. Cenk had the world by the balls. He was very early on the screen, or on the scene rather, but he fucked it all up. He fumbled the bag. He spread himself too thin, and now he's unraveling.
And the thing about Midas Touch that really sucks is the one thing they're not going to touch is Israel-Palestine. Like, they're not actually going to talk about anti-war stuff. And, like, the other problem is like, you cannot see the current authoritarianism that we're living under. I'm in LA. Motherfuckers are being disappeared every day. We are under siege. They're in LA. They're not talking about the immigrants that are being, disappeared, kidnapped. They're not interviewing the families. They're not interviewing the day laborers, because their one lens is like, oh, anti-war. And again, a really, really bad faith lens. And so this is my thing about like only seeing the so-called left through this one lens. Is like, you're missing all the authoritarianism that you for months have said isn't actually happening, and won't be as bad, and it is as bad.
And not just missing it, but you're actually kind of misdirecting your audience into having them believe this bullshit, which is just a distraction. And that's what we've talked about in the context not just of the anti-war shit, but also in the context of Marjorie Taylor Greene herself not that long ago pretending to be in favor of defunding the FBI. I don't know if you guys remember this, but a couple of years ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of the fact that the FBI was investigating Donald Trump and because of the fact that they had just raided Mar-a-Lago, she wanted to come out here and say, maybe we should get rid of the FBI. And certain people on the left, not to name any names, certain people on the left got really horny all of a sudden and were excited as hell to give Marjorie credit. At the time, I said, what the hell are you talking about? Marjorie Taylor Greene is not an abolitionist. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't want to defund the police. She's distracting you, and she's appropriating our movement's language. She's appropriating something that the left has historically understood and pushed for to distract idiots and get them to think that the right wing is anti-establishment. It's no different when it comes to this anti-war shit. And yeah, there are a lot of voters out there who don't like war. Obviously, most people, if you ask them, do you like babies getting blown apart and civilians getting slaughtered? They're going to say fucking no, obviously. But they're being tricked by these Republican voters into thinking that, actually now the Republican Party is the party of anti-war because Donald Trump and Dave Smith and a couple other fucking idiots who mostly just exist online. It's our job as commentators to warn those voters and say, hey, you're being lied to, you're being taken advantage of. And even if you don't like the Democrats, they are, there's more anti-war sentiment here. There's more of an actual anti-war movement. I haven't seen a goddamn single MAGA person or Republican put on an anti-war protest, at least not since Donald Trump was elected. So I think that's the role of the commentariat. Clearly, Cenk disagrees. Clearly, Anna disagrees. They want to aid the right wing. They want to aid the Republican Party in distracting and fooling people whose heart is potentially in the right place.
Yeah.
They are just factually on the right. Like the thing is, they are right wing, and like Anna isn't even. They've announced that. To me, that is like an outright fact. To resist that at this point is crazy. Like she is on her take a whole right wing ass network, right wing panel, and she's not the liberal voice up there. I've watched. She's up there right wing as fuck, hanging out with Tammy Lauren and Coulter. It's actually a Boondocks episode at this point. Like they're on the fucking right? Like you see it. They're cussing out everybody on the left. Everybody on the left is a jackass. Everybody on the right is a nuanced populist, okay? And that's my thing. This idea, there are a bunch of these people, and I've thought this for years. I'm so glad people are starting to see it. I hope they see the rest of them. I won't say no names. But there are a bunch of these people who always need to be trying to engage with what some right wing, some outright right wing white supremacist nut job type of person is like always trying to see something like, let me see where they could be good faith. And I hate to say it, but they're right this time, and even they get it. And I'm like, you know that there's never actually a reason why you need to like be worrying about what Candace Owens is doing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could be anti-war and pro-Palestine and all these different things and never once need Candace Owens to ground that opinion.
Exactly.
You don't need to be like, Tucker Carlson did have a point that one time. Like,
but and Olay, the thing is that movements are saying that. Like, I've seen so many, people who've been on the front lines of the Palestine Solidarity movement, the anti-genocide movement, who are like openly telling their people, do not break bread with these folks. These are not our allies. Just because they say this, just because Tucker Carlson, is asking Ted Cruz, the population of Iran, that's great. But like everything is with a gross, I can't believe I agreed with Tucker in this one moment, but these are not our people. And that's the other thing is that Anna has openly said she doesn't believe in activism.
Dude, they constantly antagonize activists. Activists are the cause of everything that's bad about California. They got behind a billionaire real estate developer as a network. They endorsed Rick Caruso. They constantly slandered Karen Bass. I think there are genuine left-wing criticisms of Karen Bass, but she was the obvious choice for mayor in that election.
And they didn't even talk about Zoran.
They didn't talk about Zoran at all, guys, until afterwards. And then Cenk tries to make it about him, and he's like, this is what happens when you follow the Justice Democrats model that I've been advocating for the last decade. It's like, you didn't put out a single fucking video, and he did everything you say you hate.
And he would have gone on in a second. He came on my show 2 months ago. Many people, the majority report had him on.
100 subscribers.
yeah.
Yeah, they like that's the other thing is like and this I think is the point that I've been trying to make to Cenk on Twitter. In my way, and kind of mocking it, because this week you started the week with, okay, all of these so-called anti-war people on the right have actually folded and say, I agree with the president, I trust the president, except for a couple randos, right? Then Zoran wins, a Muslim democratic socialist who wants to work for the working class, who DSA endorsed, right? Like, this man is incredible. This is the biggest victory since AOC in 2018. And all the same right-wingers, Marjorie Greene, Charlie Kirk, every single person that's been lauded. I don't think Candace Owens yet, so maybe that's to her credit. But like all these people have been lauded, and people who Cenk has, gone on their shows and tried to roll out the red carpet are calling him a Muslim, communist, jihadist, fucking gonna do 9/11, this is the 9/11, I can't believe this happened. Super Islamophobic. And in response to Charlie Kirk's tweet, Cenk's like, please, Charlie, I know you don't mean this. Don't you know? Muslims, they're accountants, and they are workers, and they do like.
Meanwhile, let that have been the reverse. Let us have been like, let your tweet have been like, Andrew Cuomo is a predator. He'd be like, see, this is the problem. Yeah. Like, you shouldn't be calling people words like this here.
But yeah, it really needs to, like, the point needs to be made how insane it is for a network that still, to this day, calls themselves the home of progressives. Cenk did not even know who Zoran Mandami was 2 months ago. I was watching the Young Turks when someone brought him up, and Cenk said, there's some brother named Zoran, like he literally didn't know who this person was. I'm not saying you have to have been following Zoran's political career since literally day one, like Zach and I have. As he mentioned, Zoran was one of the very first, first 20 guests on the fucking Vanguard podcast. So we're pretty proud of that. And I'm not saying you, like, people, if you didn't know who he was back in 2021, then you're not a real leftist, obviously. But the election was going on for months, and up until like 90 fucking days or less ago, Cenk didn't even know who the fuck this guy was, didn't put out any videos about him, either because, one, they didn't think he'd have a chance of winning, or two, because they don't actually support his policies and his movement.
Well,
I think that's the
they
answer.
Don't fucking support his policies.
They pretend to be progressive. They want to act like, oh, this is proof that a populist can win or whatever. But Zoran has not been following the advice of the Young Turks. He's been calling Donald Trump a fascist. He's been identifying as a democratic socialist unapologetically. He's been doing everything that we say candidates should do, and he's proof that the left can actually win in the largest city in the country.
He just said he has a problem with capitalism openly on CNN.
And then went straight to
Cenk
MLK. It was incredible.
Call him very dumb shortly. Trust me. Like, what are those? He's going to be like, it's very dumb. We need capitalism. This is a free market. America's the greatest. I'm telling you, he's going to
We all know his red line is billionaires, right?
Oh, yeah. He actually, I think he's softening on that, too. I remember 2 Thanksgivings ago. Shout out to Hassan for doing this because it's one of the best things on the internet. Every Thanksgiving, him and Hassan sit down and they have a debate. And Hassan was trying to debate Cenk on like the profit motive, and Cenk goes, no, they took all the risk, okay? You have to give these guys some what's the point of starting a business? Like yada yada yada. He's like, you have to pay your shareholders, you have to pay your stock investors. I mean, that's just lunacy. This is America. So you know where his head is at. Like even in his fantasy land, he's a capitalist.
I just don't know why, honestly. For me, I don't feel any kind of personal offense at the things that I my progressive heart does not believe when I see Cenk and Anna doing their fuck shit. I know what they are. I don't care. There's a bunch of them in the world. My creative heart, like as a creator, is where I'm confused. I'm like, you won't pay your bills? What's going on? What is the strategy? That's what confused, because I'm like, why don't, at this point, it is not to your benefit in general to have like this whole like big network where you employ a bunch of other people. If you know what YouTube makes on ad revenue versus the person to show XYZ, it just doesn't make sense. It was never read, let alone like what you have to bring in views. It basically, that kind of model renders it where even when you are technically successful, you won't feel successful in terms of money and the stress, right? So what you have to earn. But then on top of that now, all right, shit's already fallen apart. You obviously fundamentally are out of line and step with like what you built this platform to be, despite, yes, okay, you might have millions of subscribers, but that's not what you're getting in views, right? There's a difference between how you perform like by yourself versus with the main show and Anna and all them. I don't understand why Cenk might as well just make a separate channel, Cenk Uger, like redefine a new show and just be a right-wing commentator or be that.
Well, we've talked about how the most financially, fruitful path for them going forward would for it to just be Cenk and or Anna and cut all the other fat out. That would be my opinion, although I would feel terrible for all the people, the 75 or whatever employees who might lose their jobs.
Let them free.
But I totally agree with you. From like a programming perspective, their decisions make almost no sense at this point. We talked about that a lot in the context of the Crystal Kyle debate. I totally agree with you, Olay. It's like if they're going to keep harping on this, it's not good for business in the first place, and it's not clearly what the people want to hear. Like no one really wants to tune into the Young Turks on the election night of Zoran Mondami and hear them bitching and moaning about how the left sucks and how they're the only ones that aren't gaslighting.
Take over the streets.
Right, but if they are going to keep going down this rabbit hole, and if they are going to keep trying to fight this fight, they're not even doing it on their own channel and getting the views that and then the clicks that they seemingly are chasing with this whole thing. Like Cenk invited himself on Crystal Kyle and Friends. That's something that Crystal mentioned in the first few minutes of this. She's like, Cenk invited himself on here to do a sequel to the last debate we had, which was also on my show, Breaking Points, right?
Right.
So Cenk's not even profiting off of this. It's not drawing attention to his channel. He's drawing attention to other people's stuff by embarrassing himself and then just getting mocked and going viral. But again, he's not seeing any benefit from it.
And I think it's one of those things where, again, I always try to look at everything in the light most favorable and be as charitable to people as possible. I think it's one of those things where you get irritated. You might have had a rightful gripe, like for a moment at once at the beginning, like a seed of rightful gripe. But instead of sitting down and like cooling off and like taking the time you need to like get over how you feel, you're just going. And the next thing you know, you're fucking ranting and raving every chance I think that's real. Like I took a break from outright just explicit political content for a few months this year because I was like, I'm still fucking mad about the election. I don't got shit to say to y'all other than fuck y'all, and that's not productive. I don't want to come out here nihilistic, see y'all fucked it all up, right? And look, like that wouldn't be productive. So I said,
You had those videos though, Olay. You put out the videos. You put out the nihilistic videos.
I got my couple like this is what I think, and I still think I'm right. I'm correct. Yeah. I'm just not raining down misery on everybody every day because it's not effective.
I think that what is so insidious about what Cenk and Anna are doing is that they don't actually cut the name Home of Progressives out from TYT. It's that they don't be honest and say, you know what, we're actually kind of centrist and this is who we are and we think that the left has gone too far. It's that they're not honest. It's that they are still trying to claim that they have the strategy and only they have the strategy to stop fascism, which they're not even really covering in earnest. And a lot of their
don't think they're centrist anymore. I think centrist was charitable and nice a year ago, maybe
but
2
you know
years
what
ago.
I'm saying, right? Like it's that I think is what most of us have a problem with. Is that you're still laboring under the auspices that you are actually, that you have something to add, that you know what to do. And I think there are people who actually believe them. But I also think, like, full disclosure, don't you guys feel like they buy tons of bots? Like, Cenk, first of all, you have to know, Cenk, like 3 years ago, every time he would tweet, it'd be like, shut up, shut up. Everybody hated him because Cenk is a like universally obnoxious person. He needs to know how obnoxious he comes out. He knows he's obnoxious. Sometimes he can be right and obnoxious. Lately, he's been very wrong and obnoxious, but Twitter is the one place where he just strikes out all the time, and it was very fun to watch. Not lately. And I do really think there's been like an actual investment in
the only time he does well on Twitter is when he's praising Donald Trump.
My thing about this, though, is
but I do think there's bots who are like, hell yeah, and because like I'm like, nobody defends Cenk online? Literally nobody. Even when he was right, nobody defended him.
But what I don't get is why, and not just about him. I think this about a lot of leftist commentators.
Well, can I take a stab at that, Olay? Because I think the writing's been on the wall for a long time, and I think that if you take a step back and look at Cenk as a man, as an individual, as a figure, it starts to all really make sense. So Cenk, desperately more than anything, he's a narcissist. He's a guy that wants to be heard. He has external validation cravings, right? You can look at his entire career, and I'm not trying to psychoanalyze the guy. I have external validation cravings, right? Look at my relationship with my mother. So you have to fucking we can spot our own. I'm just saying, right? So the guy goes down this rabbit hole, right, where he is a angry right-winger. That's not really working for him anymore, so he pivots to being a progressive that supports Obama. He really hits the jackpot. Now people care. He's the aggressive progressive. He's the guy that's really being outraged. People are tuning into him. That's positive reinforcement, and he's also making more money than he's ever made before. Wow, this is awesome. In 2013, they say, you know what we're going to do, guys? We're going to build the People Studio. It's going to be by you guys, for you guys. They raised $400,000 in small donations. Over 3,600 people sent small dollar contributions to Cenk and Anna to build what they called the People Studio, where it wasn't going to be impacted by any corporation, that they were going to do the straight news for Cenk and Anna. Except here's what Cenk didn't tell his audience. After he had that proof that he was able to raise so much money from his audience, he went out to Buddy Roemer's fucking venture capital group. Gavin and I were talking about this right before the show. Raised $4 million from Buddy Roemer, Republican venture capital group. Does not say anything to his fucking audience about it. Keeps their $400,000 that he fundraised, naming it the People Studio. He then in 2015 does another fundraising round of Series A for over $3 million, right? Almost $4 million again. And then in August of 2017, he has Graycroft, which a lot of you guys will know from the GoPuff delivery service. That's how they made their name in the industry. And 3L Capital. That's where you hear Jeffrey Katzenberg's name a bunch, but it's also the company that invests in Bird Scooters and this like online and erectile dysfunction group. And it's basically a partner with this guy, Naval Ravikant. Why is Naval Ravikant important? Because that guy was extremely early into cryptocurrency. Okay, that guy runs an entire hedge fund. It's not technically a hedge fund, but it's basically the West Coast equivalent of a hedge fund that's deep into cryptocurrency. Okay, they got leveraged like a motherfucker like that. Cenk spends a ton of money trying to go on YouTube TV, trying to make it look like they're CNN, they're MSNBC, they're Fox News, they're the next big thing. He hires a bunch of employees. He's spread thin as fuck. And then what happened? The entire progressive movement basically falls out from underneath him in 2020 when Joe Biden gets elected in the primary. The momentum stops. They are dead wrong on a bunch of critical issues, and so they start to panic. They start to take shots in the wind. Cenk runs for president later on. He has his failed run for Congress in there. He makes Anna Kasparian an executive producer, so she's able to force her right-wing views onto the main show for the first time. You have all of these things that start to unravel, and now he's got people that he owes money to. So he's taking all kinds of shots in the wind. He's freaking out, and now the chickens are all coming home to roost. So he takes the Polymarket money. We know that Hassan got offered $1 million for a one-night sponsorship from Polymarket, so we can only wonder how much money Cenk got. The cryptocurrency comes back into play because that's the entire thing behind Polymarket. And it also had a $70 million cash infusion from Peter Thiel. So you can just see all of this start to weigh together where it's like, okay, this guy wants to get more funding. He wants to be able to get more naming rights for his studio. He wants to be able to keep the lights on. He's losing his ass on actual views, and he doesn't know what to do about it. So he's trying to,
That's the thing. Like that's the thing that ultimately doesn't make sense to me. Like in the sense that Anna and Cenk spend their time, and most of where they get any visibility is carrying on bad on Twitter, is being in controversy and being in confrontations on Twitter. That doesn't do anything substantive. That visibility on the timeline of people talking to you does not do anything for your views and ultimately like your money, your actual thing. Like at least not in their case that we can see that, right? Like, and I just, as far as maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm a dream small kind of, I don't know. I believe in like building your shit brick by brick. I honestly, I think it is not to your advantage for exactly this reason. You see all this debt, you owe people money to assist in the next thing or whatever, trying to get all this money up front rather than just build the thing. Because the reality is, especially as being a creator, being a creative, building something, it takes a while for something to be lucrative. And even then it has its dips, it has its ebbs and flows. And like, I was just like, I don't know what is the reason to have this like scramble of stress that he has to like save this whole thing and have these like large swaths of money, because you can see like, despite what the overall numbers are on TYT, which are in the fucking toilet, they are in the toilet by small accounts like standards, let alone an account with millions. But if you look at the lives and look at like in the month past where it was just Cenk doing lives by his single self, it was getting hundreds of thousands of views. If he wasn't doing all of these fucking deals and taking all this money and getting in bed with all these people, he could just be by himself and do A-O-fucking-K.
I think that what really explains it, in addition to the fact that he is a legitimate narcissist with a genuinely huge ego, I'm sure that Francesca can speak to that far greater, better than we could as someone who's actually dealt with the man in person, for years and years. He is a genuine egomaniac, at least from what I can tell. But also, I do think that despite everything, and despite the situation he's in financially, I genuinely think that he can dig himself out by cuddling more and more up to the right and attracting more corporate sponsors. There was a very telling episode of Tim Pool from earlier this year when Cenk was on there, and Cenk tries to confront Tim Pool about the Russian money that he was taking in order to spread propaganda. Cenk didn't do a very good job taking Tim Pool to task over this, and interestingly, if you watch the exchange, pretty quickly he almost becomes interested in what Tim Pool's saying, because Tim Pool starts talking about how increasingly digital media and podcasts are becoming the new cable news, and we're going to see more and more advertiser money flowing in to this space. And he even says to Cenk at one point, and I think you're going to get some of it, bro. Like, I think you're on the track to receive some of this, insane corporate sponsorship money that makes the, scandalous Russian money that I apparently took nothing. Like, that, this will be considered nothing when you see the kind of corporate money that's coming. And in that moment, you can see Cenk go like, oh shit, if I follow this path, if I cuddle up to the right, if I obtain a MAGA audience, then I can get advertiser money. I can get, sponsorship money that's going to make the Polymarket thing look like nothing.
I'm sure
it's going to make the Katzenberg thing look like nothing. So I genuinely think that he thought about 6 months ago or so, if I forge this relationship with the right wing, if I pander to MAGA enough, not only can I replace my old, tired left-wing audience with a new right-wing one, but I'll be getting sponsorships and deals the likes of which I couldn't dream of back in my puny progressive era. I really think he still thinks the ceiling's, that there's more and more of a ceiling.
How long do we realistically think like you get a free trial, like you get like an opportunity, like let's see how this goes? Because like they've been doing this. I need y'all to understand.
4 years until another Jan 6, and many people die. Yeah. I will tell you that, because you know what? It's an angle. They're gonna ride this angle until there's another Jan 6 and people die. I mean, two fucking Democratic lawmakers. A Democratic lawmaker in Minnesota was just murdered in her home. What do you want to give them? Was he anti-war? I think the murder is against the war in Iran.
I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that TYT makes impact anymore. Like, I don't hear people, I don't know when I've heard anybody be like, you know what? I actually came to this position because of something I heard on TYT recently. Like, you haven't heard, when was it that Anna or Cenk said to them? Like, I don't feel like that's happening. So in my mind, I'm like, yes, I see what you're doing. I know what the strategy is that they want to become. They obviously want to gain them a right-wing audience, right-wing money, XYZ, but it's like, it's not happening. It's not coming. And they've been doing this now. They've been going down without a sign of going up now for years. It's been years. I know it because we started having these conversations. Y'all started being on their neck before I had to learn Adi, like my YouTube, before I was on YouTube. I have 6 channels now, and that first channel is like 2 years old.
I totally agree that their relevance and power to control the discourse has totally faded. Like when we started out this channel, we talked a lot about 3 people, kind of the giants of the Bernie bro media, and I considered them to be Jimmy Dore, Cenk Uygur, and Kyle Kalinske. I would say out of the 3 of those, Kyle's remained the most consistent in his message. He's grifted the least. I don't think he's grifted at all. But Jimmy and Cenk have both gotten, trapped in the... they've fallen for the trap of going for a right-wing audience and trying to poach a right-wing audience to varying levels of success. It's hurt them overall. But I do agree that, TYT, it's nothing compared to what it used to be. Most people, they're not really tuning in these days. If they are paying attention, it's to mock them or to watch, Vanguard-style content. But I do think that's a rare thing, and why people find it so fun to watch videos that we make is because we've seen all these grifters succeed in their grift. We've seen Jimmy Dore and, people like that. Jimmy Dore's fallen off. But we've seen all these people try and succeed to poach a right-wing audience and get all this money and take all these deals. Cenk and Anna is one of the first examples, I think, that it's just been an abject fucking failure. Their relevance has plummeted. Their power over the discourse has plummeted. Almost no one defends them. That's what's really crazy. Back in the day when we would go after Jimmy Dore, when we would make anti-Jimmy Dore videos, you couldn't believe the shit that we dealt with, the backlash, the bullying, the abuse from his fucking insane fans. I got literal death threats. I remember one time I got a literal death threat. Like, as a straight white fucking dude, I was sitting there reading a fucking death threat. I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. Never anything like that with TYT. At most, we'll get some butthurt dude in the chat being like, TYT has been around since before you fucking kids were even alive or whatever. But no
Those
one.
are Cenk's accounts. That's him watching
his
live.
burners.
His burners, dude.
But I think that's true. Also, like, what the fuck is in the water at TYT? Francesca, you were one of the good ones, one of the few good ones you decided to get out. But if you look at it, what was the model, right? Like, it was about getting, clicks. What was it? Because you got Dave Rubin, and then you had Jimmy Dore, and then you had Anna Kasparian, and you've got Cenk. I mean, that is a big sample size of the people that they gave contracts to go on camera, right?
And they used to let them fight, too, which was cool. Like, on the main show, Cenk and Jimmy Dore would get into it, and they'd fight. And, Dave Rubin, obviously, one of the first things that led to him leaving was that fight about Israel and Palestine. It seems like Cenk wasn't always so sensitive to, being disagreed with by his employees and contributors and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, that's a really interesting point. I mean, earlier when I said Midas touch, I think, Olay, you said Piers Morgan. Like, look at the Piers Morgan model. That dude has got nothing up here. But
we say it all the time.
He gets people, right? But he gets people, and they get the clicks because they're having at it, and they're, whatever it is. And people want to see that shit. People want to see people kind of like debate and tear each other's throats out, especially if they're like, they can pull some high-level folks. I'm never getting invited back on, I think, because this billionaire was on the last time I was on, and I made him feel bad, and they will never fucking have me back on. Also, because I asked to be paid, and I got paid twice.
Oh, nice.
And they just refused. Anyway, the point is, imagine TYT does that. Okay, we're going to have leftists, this crazy leftist debate, and like people would tune in to see that. Prove the point that the left is insane.
Why not have us on, dude? If you wanted to break the internet, have me and Gavin on there to debate him and Anna, bro. I'm telling you what, like, That's money in his pocket, dude. But he's been afraid
Totally.
of us. He's been totally afraid of us. And that's the other thing that I think is so weird. Like, if you are this narcissist, if you are this big bad wolf, like, why not fucking go to the mats with us? That's one of the other things that I don't understand about some of these big dudes. Like, Gavin and I, we have gone into the trenches with people who were way over our weight class, okay? Me podcasting for 10 months, hey, yeah, we're going to go debate Sam Cedar. It's like, yeah, dude, we believe this. Let's go talk to
That's the
Sam.
thing.
Like, you know what I mean?
They have nothing to gain, only to lose by debating. Like
Yes.
the smaller person always has something to gain. Like you
Yeah.
can, if you beat them, you beat them. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's great. If you don't, you were the smaller person. That makes sense. Like, it's fine. But if they get, that's what I've always said. That their biggest mistake, I understand why they wouldn't debate y'all, because I would put y'all on, that would give y'all further clout, which is why I don't know why they ever acknowledged y'all. I'd have I'd have died before I ever
worst
knew.
thing they'd ever done.
I don't know why they did that. That was their most fatal misstep. You will never
100K,
catch me
baby.
giving light to my haters. No, fuck no.
I mean, that's, that's what the Crystal and Kyle debate proved, right? Not only on substance, but on form, Cenk lost. I mean, anyone objectively, send it to someone who has no idea who any of these people are, like no idea, like doesn't follow politics, whatever. Literally, have them sit down and just watch it, and they'll be like, I don't know, they seemed calmer and had facts to back up their points that I don't understand. And this guy was yelling the whole time and seemed to be really triggered. Like, I didn't even understand his point. Remember the first question I asked Cenk when I debated him? The first question is, what are you doing? He never answered that question. In 2 hours, and also to this day,
Still hasn't.
there is no what. Because there isn't a what. And again, the last time we were all three on together, I mean, I think, look, Zach laid it out pretty well. Like, the what leads us to believe the what is money. The what is just money. Because it doesn't feel politically motivated, and it doesn't seem like you're interested in actually bringing anybody on board. You're more interested in just screaming at them for not already being on board. And you're not interested in anyone on the liberal left or the Democratic Party, even though all of your talking points and your policies are so fucking Nancy Pelosi, you can't even breathe. Like, they're the most centrist ass shit. And let's remember, some of these anti-establishment folks have everything in common with the centrist Democrats, right? And the one issue that Anna and Cenk are good on is Israel-Palestine. They are becoming the very Candace Owens, the very Tucker Carlsons, the very right-wingers who are happen to be good on this one issue. That's what they're becoming.
And nobody's gonna watch them or fuck with them for the same reasons that people claim that those same people said that people didn't support Kamala because they don't want Republican light, right? That's what they said. So why the fuck is anybody gonna go rush over to TYT just trying to be a bullshit confused
They can be like,
bootleg
actually,
version?
there are immigrants who are doing terrible things. Like every time Anna gets a chance to talk about Los Angeles or I'm saying, like, this is her coverage. Like, we are seriously under siege. This city is under siege right now. And your coverage is, you know what? Some of the people were actually most wanted. They're real dangerous criminals. Who said that? Oh, Tom fucking Homan? Did they put out the list of the big bad people? You believe them. You believe them. They sent a man to fucking El Salvador because he had tattoos. Right? Like, you believe them?
Bro, I'm
So
Trendagua
this is the
too, by
shit.
the way. Don't catch me.
Exactly.
I think Anna's genuinely on the right. I think Cenk is scrambling to make bad business decisions. I do think at first I thought it was like, 2 years ago. First of all, I called that this whole thing, all this and this happened. Everything that's happening now, I fucking knew it. But I did think that it was like, I thought it was strategic, like far more strategic, but it is very clear to me by the permanent state of rage and irritation that is on Anna's face at every second of every video I see in her, that she is fully on the right. My bitch is mad as fuck 24/7. As soon as you start talking, I swear, and I wish I was being hyperbolic. I'm not even being funny. The minute Cenk says the left, Anna does this. Why are we even talking about them? Why are we even giving life and breath to this? I was watching Candace Owens the other day, and I heard her say something poignant. Like, that's what she's doing.
Anna doesn't want to do this anymore. I think that's, I know her more, and she does not want to do political news coverage. There's not enough money in it. and she's not actually committed to any progressive principles. Let's
She also
just lay
seems
'em
to
out.
hate
I don't
Los
know.
Angeles. Just
Civil
to kind
rights.
of piggyback onto your point, like she seems to
What?
hate where she lives.
Oh,
Like,
oh, yeah. I mean, she lives in the valley. Like she can be insulated from.
yeah.
My thing is, why doesn't she just fucking move? Like, she's not a prisoner, right? Like, this
That's
is
what
my
I was
thing.
wondering, too. I
This
love
is my
California,
like
but-
none of these things. I fully understand. Again, I be
I mean,
telling
she's
y'all,
from here. Family's here.
I be trying to be sympathetic to her. I swear I am. Like, I really am. What I'm confused about is like, all right, you don't like doing this kind of content anymore.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do it. You don't like, and I don't mean like, oh, quit, God, I'm not. No. You can do other kinds of content. I have 6 different types of channels. You can go do some other shit. You can. That is like an avenue that's available to you. You don't want to like be there.
She's
you don't
in
want
a
to be
way
in
better
LA.
position to do that than like 99%
She
of people
absolutely
to start a new
can.
career. Even on YouTube, she could totally start a new
Exactly.
career just based
She
on something.
literally can.
She has the money, the ability. She has a partner who I think has an income as well.
She
Like, she's in
literally
a great
doesn't need
position
shit
to
but
do
an
that.
editor. You can do it. I run 6 channels with me and Aaron.
They're being irresponsible, and it's disgusting. Days after, when there's fires, when there are sieges on immigrants here in the city, you turn on a solo Anna show, and you are going to be nothing but fucking lied to for hours on end. And it is a true disgrace. And look, I'm not saying a lot of people tune into her live, because when they see an Anna only show, they're like, oh shit, she get like 2,000 views live, you know? And again, I'm not someone who actually gives a shit about clicks, because I think you put out the material you put out. Like, I think the content's more important than clicks, number one. But of course, if your business model relies on a lot of people making money from it. But, you know, look, the big elephant in the room we're not talking about is the Majority Report. That's their big kahuna. That's who they always subtweet. That's who they're talking about when they say other shows. They're really just talking about Sam and Emma. And you look at Sam and Emma's numbers with what, 1.2 million subscribers streaming live, 10,000 K. I mean, oh, and Kyle, right? I mean, like, and the other thing is, like, Kyle and Crystal are people who, like, I didn't really follow up until like the last few months. Like, I knew of them. Now I'm like loving me some Kyle. I watched the Kyle videos. He's
Shout
so
out
good.
to
I'm
Kyle.
like, Jesus.
Inspo for the Vanguard.
Yeah, totally. But like, these are the people I'm listening to. You know what I mean? And I think other folks as well. I think that you know, again, people who are like disaffected crooked media, people who, you know, or, you know, like Midas Touch but want a little bit more, they're going to Kyle, they're going to you, they're going to us. Like,
And by the way, something that Kyle's always talked about, I've been watching Kyle Kalinske obviously for a long ass time, and something he's always talked about is that he constantly has received messages throughout his career of people that used to be right wingers that say, hey, I gravitated to your videos and ended up changing my mind because of your brutal honesty, your humor, your personality, but none of those people were convinced by Kyle fucking pandering to them. You know what I'm saying? Kyle has always been an unapologetic, you know, Bernie bro. And even when he's said things that I've disagreed with, Zach and I have had literal debates with Kyle. We don't agree with him on everything, but people admire that authenticity. And that goes back to what I was saying about how he's now more relevant than Jimmy or Cenk, despite being less relevant than them. When Zach and I started our show covering this whole scene, right? So I think that that's something that's pretty cool. You can see actual consistency rewarded instead of the grifters always winning, which is usually the case in our, you know, capitalist world. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the one good thing that I said earlier that I keep returning to is that at least Cenk and Ann have actually had to pay some consequences, so to speak. They've actually had to watch this fail. They've actually been, you know, humiliated, you know, in part thanks to people like Olay and ourselves and you having the balls to call
I'm so
them out.
nice to them. I genuinely, I swear to y'all.
yeah, you don't want any of the stink. You're like, come on here, talk.
Yeah, but Olay was a
Oh
pioneer.
no,
He was a
I've been
pioneer
very
in this
firm, and
space.
I called all this. All of this is tea. But I think I'm nice in the sense, like, I am sympathetic to crash out creatives who are tired and hate everybody, and we'll go do something different, right? Like, I don't mind that. Like, I guess what it is like, I'm not personally offended at the idea, like, Anna and Cenk are not what they, you know, purported to be, right? Because that was always clear to me. That was clear to me in the things that they say. I was like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. When I discovered TYT, they were already talking wild crazy about crime, bail reform, immigrants, homeless people. Like, I met them talking about that. Like, that's consistent. If you say right wing shit, I usually put you in the right wing. That's usually like how I think about it. So I don't have that like problem with them. I just don't. I think I just don't respect them as creatives at this point more than like progressives. I'm just confused by what they do, and I do think there is some obligation to like follow up on what you were saying, Francesca, about like, oh, I don't care about clicks. I do and I don't. Like, I don't care about it in the sense of like blind engagement, just like, oh, you know, numbers for numbers, but I care about reaching people with a message, like things that I think are important and worth enough like making. I deeply care about how do we get that message out, and I do think it's incumbent upon you like to learn the platforms that you are on, to try to figure out like what do my audience respond to, how do they like to be educated, what work. Like I figured out like when I first started Illuminati, I did my interview with like Jamal Bowman and stuff like that, and I realized people don't really like interview content. It doesn't. Interview is the least performing kind of content on YouTube, and I realized, oh, this will get way more views. Like if I talked about it and I interweaved, you know what I mean, like interviews into my video essays or whatever, and that's why that was the strategy of what I did with my Zorn and my Brad interview as opposed. So I think, you know, I do respect that kind of like effort, and I think there's a general level of I don't give a flying fuck on TYT outside of I just want off the strength of my ego. I think because I am me, you should listen to me. And if I'm not being listened to, I'm angry. Versus I just don't, that's not how I approach content on my platform. I don't think anybody gives a fuck about what I have to say inherently just cause. People are not going to watch what I'm talking about just cause. They're not just like, I wonder what line me on. You know what I mean? I do in fact still have to like say something, make an argument, be thoughtful, be nuanced. How do I figure out how to market this to you? And so it's their general level of just like, banging on the fucking table every day for 2.5 years, like fuck the left, fuck y'all, because y'all won't like announce me king while not in any way being receptive to, and I'm not saying you have to be receptive to people. You can say fuck those people, but they are not going to be in your audience. You can't then be like fuck them, but also you should be my audience. Like you should be paying me. You should consider me the king of the left, but I'm also not left. And he said that. He literally said, he was like, oh, all these people walking around like I'm the true left. Obviously not like, oh, I'm not a leftist, but like I'm still majorly on the left. You're not a leftist, but you're still majorly on the left.
It's a branding exercise. It's kind of
What
like
is majorly? Stop what you're doing and listen up. You just watched a video on one of my channels, but the Illuminati verse is huge, and I want to tell you what everything is and how to find it. The Illuminati verse has 6 channels. On the YouTube homepage of any one of those channels, every single channel in the Illuminati verse is featured at the bottom of the page, so you can always easily find them. Okay? Remember I said that. Don't say I ain't tell you how to find it. Subscribe to my main channel, Illuminati, to find my Illuminati productions, which are my long-form video essays, and also all of my backlog of content. Subscribe to my second love child, Illuminati Pop, for my weekly video essays analyzing my favorite TV and movie shows and characters. Illuminati Pop also has its own Patreon where you get all of those videos uncensored. Subscribe to my channel, Olay and Friends, for my podcast, Olay and Friends. New episodes of Olay and Friends come out every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to Olay and Chill for new episodes of my podcast, Olay and Chill, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And also, both Olay and Friends and Olay and Chill are both available on streaming platforms like Spotify. Subscribe to Illuminati Bites if you want my takes, but you don't have an hour to spend. Subscribe to Illuminati Politics for my political analysis and my State of the Union type addresses on my show O Squared. And last but not least, subscribe to my Substack Illuminati for my written work.